Good day. My name is Mrs. Madumbu. I'm here to teach business studies. I want to take you through a revision session on case studies because as you know that our questions or our exams are based on case studies, all of them. So today I want to focus on the case studies in paper 2, where the whole question paper is based upon one case study. So I want to take you through 2 items. The first one, I want to take you through identifying the key business terms and the features in a given case study. And we also want to go through the common illustrations that we have, because in most cases there is a text and then there are 2 or 3 illustrations to go with the case study, and this is where most of the questions are based on. So you find out that in most cases these illustrations will be having items such as graphs, charts, financial statements, tables, pictures, adverts, maps, press release, organizational structures, and many other things. So I want to start by talking about the business features or the business concepts that we get in case studies, and perhaps the reason why we need to focus on them or to concentrate on them. So as you read through a case study, I usually advise people, because our paper 2 has 4 questions. It's actually divided into 4 questions. So you can actually go through the four questions before you read, so that when you start to identify the features, you can actually be reminded of what you are looking for or what you need to concentrate on. So you can quickly read through the 4 questions. Then after quickly reading through the 4 questions, you can come back to your case study, then you start to read. Now as you are reading, I don't expect you, of course you can write a few things aside, but most of the things you can just make notes on your case study. You underline as you write some brief notes on the paper itself, because the case study is a separate inset. It's not part of the question paper, so you can do all your rough work on it. So I advise you to be looking for the following items that I've listed here. So of course you need to check on the business name or the owner of the business, because some business cases they just tell you the owner of the business, in which case it will be in most sole trader businesses, or the business name. And the reason why you need to take note of the business name or you need to take note of the business owner is, as you start to answer the questions now, you need to address everything using the owner of the business or the name of the business. Because the idea behind, actually the major objective of this syllabus is for us to familiarize with important business concepts, and then we are able to interpret them, and we are able to communicate business information using the appropriate business language. And eventually we are supposed to give recommendations and also to be using the appropriate business language. So it includes quoting businesses using their names and the owners of their businesses. Then you also need to identify the form of business, whether it is sole trader, it is a partnership, a private limited company, or a public limited company, perhaps even a franchise. So that once you identify the form of business, you tend to know what is associated with that kind of business in terms of sources of finance, in terms of possible or problems, in terms of marketing strategies, right? So you also need to identify the type of product or the service that is offered, so that as you communicate or as you write your articles, you should quote the product using the name actually. Let me give you an example. If it is a business selling toys, You have to talk about the selling of toys, the buying of toys. You are not supposed to talk about goods in general, but you have to quote. If they are selling cars, you have to talk about the product as a car. You specify. Even if the product has a specific name, you should actually specify the name, right? You also need to check on the size of the business, right? Some businesses are very small, especially those that are starting. Some they are relatively small, some they are very large businesses. So you know that this information is important when it comes to things like advertising. The type of or form of advertising, it goes with the type of business or the size of the business, right? You also need to check on the period of operating. Is it a new business? Has it been operating maybe for 5 years, for 10 years, for 15 years? That information is also important. That's the one that will help you to see whether it is progressing well, it is growing, it is doing well or not. Then you also need to check on the sources of finance. Some businesses, especially those that are starting, sometimes they will indicate the source of finance when the business was started. Then that is when you will identify, that is when you actually see whether there is need to source finance, and that is when you'll be able also to come up with suggestions or solutions or recommend the appropriate methods of sourcing finance for that business. We also need to check on the communication. Sometimes a case study comes with communication such as press releases, letters, memos. Some are internal, some are also external. Internal information is about different departments communicating about problems, sharing information, while external information like press releases is information from the business environment outside, sometimes from the community, sometimes from the government, just to alert the business, especially on economic issues. Some communication is from suppliers, some from customers as well. Then the next thing is the organizational structure. Some case studies might show an organizational structure, so that is also good information that can help you to check on the communication structures of a business together with the hierarchical structures, and it will also show you the size of the business and how it operates. And sometimes this is where you even tend to know, you can even classify your business as in the sectors of production. Is it a primary sector? Is it in manufacturing? Is it a tertiary sector? All those things you need that information so that when you communicate, you can always use the appropriate language. Then you also need to check on the market. Identify the market for the business. Is it the local market? Perhaps just the city that the owner of the business stays in, or a region in a country, or is it national, or is it international? So most small businesses, they tend to operate in the local community, but very large businesses, they are the ones that are doing international trade. Then you check also on the marketing mix. Generally, the kind of product, is it are they selling expensive products, and the marketing strategies they are using, the promotional mix, their chain of distribution. You check on all those things, because in some cases you might be required to recommend the best mix. Then there's always things to do with the business environment. Of course, the political, not so much, but once in a while you can get political issues, right? Economic issues, yes, there's a lot to do with what that particular country in which the business is operating, the economic status, as in whether it's a recession or they are in a boom. They can also talk about exchange rates, they can talk about tax, they can talk about employment issues, and this is also some of the information that you can get from press releases, right? And also, they also put some information, sometimes on the technological environment, sometimes they even describe the nature of the community or the market for the business, what kind of people are in that business, are they into the new technology, such as the use of social media, or are they the kind of people that will be having facilities or services like internet? All that information will be included. That is very important because it helps you to even recommend the right advertising technique or media. Then finally, you find out that you will need to identify the objectives of the business as it progresses, right? In most cases, most businesses, especially those that start small, they tend to start as sole traders, and they will always set some objectives on growth together with changing business status. One might start as a partnership, then eventually they want to be a private limited company, while others, they start as a private limited company and they tend to change. They also want to become a public limited company, and you find out that as they do that, sometimes it will be a move to source finance or to be in a better status to be able to source finance. So in most cases, the objectives are set, but always there's also a problem in the business. But most of the problems, the most common problem is the capital, lack of capital to expand, lack of capital even to just to finance the day-to-day activities like working capital. So those problems, they come, or sometimes they want to expand into a new business premises, but there are problems, challenges, things to do with competition and all those things. So those are the things that will be required to recommend to the business. Right. So after checking on these features, these are the features that you check on as you are reading through the case. Then after the text, these are some of the illustrations that you find. So I've just taken a few that I'll just show you so that you will see that when you are having an illustration like the one that we have, what sort of information do you get from that kind of an illustration, and how do you deal with it? So if you look at this table, it is a table, and most tables are given for decision-making purposes. Some, they have financial information, some they have information about employment. Maybe there are 3 candidates for employment, but you will see that most of them, they are put in tabular form like this. It is always wise to go through the table and study the table, because in most cases, especially if it is finance, you find out that for very big businesses, the monies might even be quoted in large sums, which are millions or billions. So as they write in that the figures in like summarized millions, when you do your calculations, you need to be very careful about that. So in this particular case, this is about 3 possible allocations for a new shop. It means it's a business, they want to open a new shop, and these are 3 allocations in 3 different towns. So they have information about rent, about salaries, about heating, about the gross profit, right? So, and there's also information about franchise. It looks like it's a business that is taking a franchise. So these are the franchise fees. So this is the information that you might need to compare. So if you are not very careful, you can just look at the estimated gross profit and you can quickly conclude that, oh, town A is the best. But the information that you have given if you try to use your knowledge of business finance, you will note that after gross profit, we are supposed to subtract the expenses. And the expenses are given, right? Sorry, these are the given expenses, right? So you can actually add them up and subtract, and eventually you can get net profit for all the businesses. And once you have the net profit for the businesses, you might be now in a better position to compare the two businesses, rather than comparing when they have different expenses altogether. Now, the next illustration is an organizational structure. As you can see, this is the organizational chart for a company. You can see that it is a managing director and 4 other directors for the 4 divisions. And you find out that this is the kind of information that you need. In most cases, that will tell you, especially even the hierarchical structures, communication channels. It will also show you, even it will indicate the size of the business, because you can see even the number of production workers. You can even see that it's a factory operating with 100 production workers. So with this kind of a structure, as you read through, you can link it to some of the problems that are in the business, especially problems like communication. This is where you might also be able to recommend a better structure if this kind of a structure is giving them problems. My next illustration is a press release, a newspaper article in the main news. It can be found in a case study. Here they say country Z has been in a recession, but the economy is now growing rapidly and employment is falling. Unemployment is falling with higher incomes, and the majority of people now own a mobile phone. This makes communication easier. Mobile banking becoming more popular, and it is used by a large percentage of the population. Yes, this is very good information that will show you what is in the business environment, and particularly in the economic environment and in the market as well. The economy has been in a recession as indicated, so you know what is associated with recessions, right? And you know what comes when it is growing now. You know what happens when unemployment is falling. So now people have high incomes. You can imagine the kind of market. So you can always recommend what the business should do with this in mind. So that's a press release. Next is an advert. So this is an advertisement for CC, that's the name of a business, standardized mobile phone covers. It's a company that is selling phone covers. Right, I indicated in my list of features that even pictures can be put. So in most cases they combine, of course they can put a separate picture, but sometimes they put the picture in the advert so you can actually see the kind of product. So here is a cell phone cover, and they say, do you want to protect your phone from damage? Then buy a phone cover from CC. Your phone will never be damaged if you use one of our high quality covers. That's an advert. We offer a range of standardized covers at competitive prices. The CC range has many different colors and designs, so you stand out from the crowd. Oh, that's the advert. To show how appealing the company's products are. It's the advert that will show even the position of the product in the market. So it is even showing you the mode or the method of advertising or promotion that they are using. My next illustration is a pie chart. You know there are different types of charts. Can have a bar chart, can have a pictogram, but now I just took a pie chart. because I feel the pie chart in most cases is the one that comes with a bit of complicated information in a way. The bar chart is very easy to interpret. But a pie chart, as you can see, the common one that we know, especially in mathematics, it will be having those sectors. Even the sizes that are indicated sometimes in degrees as angles. But in business studies, you can see that we use percentages. And that does not change everything. It means all those sectors is out of 100. So it means these are the total soap sales, right, in a country. So it's just marketing information. If you want to know the number of, or the actual figure for sales for medicated soap, if it's 10% there, it means it's 10 over 100 of what? Of 200 million. And these are some of the calculations that I told you that you have to be careful. That is a summarized figure, 200 million. Now when you, after calculations, you give your answer, you can write it in expanded form. Or remember to put 200, then you put an M for million. If you just put 200 without an M, even with dollars, it means it's $200. So that makes a difference. So those are some of the small things that you need to check as you look for this information. Some of the pie charts, they compare the products for different companies across the market, while others, they can compare the products for the same company. Or if you look at this one is for the whole, of course, the whole industry. So that's it. Or sometimes it is one company that is selling different soaps. It depends. But anyway, the case study will explain all those things. The next one is financial information. So this is financial information from SA. SA is the name of a company. Balance sheets for 2017 and 2018. You can see that they have the non-current assets, they have inventories, they have trade receivables, cash, current liabilities, bank loan, current ratio, acid test ratio, and you can see that for 2017, everything is shown, but for 2018 there are some figures that are missing. So you find out that if it's given like this, it means you have to calculate. And the good thing is the calculations for 2017 are done. Even if you have forgotten how to do your current ratio and acid test, you can come back and check how it is done in 2017, then you can go ahead and do the 2018 calculations. So this is financial information. It's not a specific financial statement, it's just a different financial information put together. And they always make sure that whatever is given here, you'll be able to do all the calculations and all the comparisons that you can do. And this is also where you need to be very careful. If you are to check on the any item, right, like trade, let's say inventory or trade receivables, there is where you need to compare. If you are comparing, don't just indicate that this item is higher than that one, or this item is increased, or this item is decreased. You have to show us the increase value. Like it has increased by 5, or it has increased by 10. So this is the reason why you are given figures. So in business, you don't communicate text. If figures are given, you have to give the figures as well. Then you can have information on business costs, information on 2 possible new fruit drinks. Again, this is information that is always given to compare and to make decisions. So there are 2 drinks. There is a forecast on demand, average variable costs, fixed costs per week, selling price, number of types of fruit, market segments, you can see. So usually this is also information that you can be used to determine which is the best drink, or you might use this information as well to check on the profitability. You can put this information on your break-even chart and determine the break-even point and recommend to the business management. And this is a forecasted cash flow statement for TP for the first half year of 2018. You must also check that in brackets there goes thousands of dollars, which means any figure that you see in this table, it has 3 zeros. So those are some of the things that we need to check on as we are reading through. So I'm talking about this figure. So you can see that it's a schedule for 6 months. And if you check also, you can see that there is W, it means a figure is missing, and another figure here, X, another figure missing, and another figure here. So they have also indicated here that the figures in the brackets are negative. So you can also follow the other months like February, you can see, and April, May, can follow through, and you can be able to determine these missing figures, especially the W here, the closing balance. You can also use the same schedule to find those 3. That is a projected cash flow statement. Then we finally have the income statement, right? Yes, as if it's decided, has to decide on which location would be best for a new shop. So he has undertaken market research and forecasted the costs of the 2 locations. The information has been collected, is shown below. So forecasted information for the next year. So there's for location A and B. There is the revenue that is expected, the cost of sales, then we have the gross profit, then we have the rent, then we have other expenses, and we have the net profit. So as you can see, this is really information that can be compared, and this is where I said you need to quote with figures. If you can see, you can say location B has more or a higher revenue figure, or it's higher than B by 20,000. Or the net profit for B is more than the net profit for A by 3,000. So it's not like you are given a table and then you just end your statements like that. Tables are given for a reason. You interpret the information and you use it in decision making, and you use it to make meaningful statements. Because if you are to show someone that there's a difference, or one item is more than the other, and you actually show the difference, it makes sense than just telling someone that this item is more than that one. Because it might be you are saying B is more than A, maybe B is just 9,500, while A is 9,000, then the difference of 500. But maybe perhaps the other time B is actually 15,000. So you need to show the difference. So this concludes my first lesson on the features that we get from a case study. Now, this is information that will be given in a case study that when you read through, this is just what you see. So at first value, you should see, and mostly try to now to imagine what you are expecting. But if in the first place you had gone through the questions, some of the answers will now be having them before you even start answering. So that is the idea behind going through a statement. This concludes my lesson.